Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Terri.
My name is the Reverend Terri Burnor. I use she and her pronouns, and I'm delighted to be with you all here on the first Sunday of the month.
I don't think it's allowed.
Can we try maybe boosting it just a little bit?
It's
There we go. That's a little better, a little louder. Perfect. I wanted to share a story for all ages, and it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter that we don't necessarily have the wee ones here because we are all children at heart, right? We can all use a little storytelling. Yeah. So that's why I'm going to come up here. I'm going to pretend we're all little innocents, little ones. This is a story that is based on an essay by Ricardo Morales Levins. You're going to hear more, Ricardo Levins Morales. You are going to hear more from him later in my message. But I took his essay and kind of storyfied it a little bit for us. So for our story, we're going to travel all the way from the upper Midwest to the Sonoran Desert. This hot area covers the most southern parts of California and Arizona, plus 3 states in northwestern Mexico. Seeds in any desert lie still. They are dormant, kind of like they are sleeping. They wait in the darkness for their time to wake up and rise. Water is life to a seed, but a desert is all about dryness. And yet, the desert is about life too. 1 square foot of open land in the Sonoran Desert. Can you picture 1 square foot? My hands are full, so someone make a sign. 1 square foot, there we go, can contain several thousand sleeping seeds. In some sheltered low areas, there might be 20,000 seeds. In 1 square foot, 20,000 seeds. These seeds keep waiting until the short desert rainy season says, it's time to push apart your shells, stretch up and up through the softened desert crust and burst into bloom. But our seeds are not just waiting for water. They're looking for the promise of rains to come. So if we drove a tanker truck full of hundreds of gallons of life-giving water into the desert, the seeds wouldn't be impressed. They'd be like, nah, we're going to keep sleeping a little bit longer. Why? Why would they not spring forth? Because they know that if they leapt into action at the first drops of water, they would die. What if this was just a fluky one-time rainstorm? If more rain doesn't come soon, those little sprouts would wither. Desert seeds need to be convinced. Plants living in the desert have all kinds of cool ways to solve this problem. Some seeds come wrapped in layers of coatings, and some even have their own chemicals that keep them from growing. It takes several rains within a short time frame for the water to dissolve each layer. When the water finally reaches the germ at the center of the seed, now that's the signal. It's safe to come out. The rains are here for real. We humans kind of act like these seeds. Now, if there were children here, I would say, think about school. But I think we can all imagine places like school or places where we gather where there's that one person who kind of refuses to come out of their shell, just going through the motions. Or the kiddo with the hat scrunched way down over their eyes, slouched way in the back. They aren't dumb. They're not convinced it's safe. They have within them the same instructions from their ancestors for growing, stretching, and blossoming. They also have inherited or learned the instinct for protecting themselves, to shield their tender inner selves from the dangers they know are out there? What signal are they waiting for? So here's a question for all of us. Whether we're organizing people to change the world, whether we're teaching or parenting or leading or gardening, the question should never be, why are they so darn uncooperative? But rather, what must it be like to be a seed?
First one is called The Family Car by Tom Asper. Just as a little diversion, as I was reading this, I was thinking back to when I was a child and we would go on family outings in my father's 1955 Ford. And the three older kids, we'd all sit in the back seat, and my younger sister, who was still potty training, would sit in the front seat with my mother. And she had a little potty chair up there, so when Hannah had to go, she could go in the little potty chair. Well, one time we were riding along, and it was a hot summer day, so we had all the windows open, and my sister had to go, so she did it, and my mother threw it out the window. And my little brother sitting next to me said, "Hey, it's raining back here." So I thought I would tell you that before I read you the reading. So here we go with the family car. When I was a kid, we always had big cars, Pontiacs, Buicks, and Oldsmobile Rocket. Each year, the bodies looked the same, but the grills got chromier and meaner looking. With father behind the wheel, mother watching the road, my brother and I assigned to our lifetime seats in back. Our faces were painted on the toy windows. In the hot Texas summers, people walking in the filmy heat seemed to float above the melting asphalt, while we cruised in air conditioning behind tinted glass. It was quiet in there with the doors locked, the windows sealed. From my seat in the right rear, I watched the world fan by. This was life. This was certainty. This was big car roominess. Second reading is called To the People Who Have Mistaken Freedom for Liberation by the Reverend Julian Jamaica Soto, with thanks to Reverend Leela Sinha. To be free, you must embrace the breadth of your existence without apology, even if they try to take it from you. You must know not that you can do whatever you want. You are not a kudzuvite eating entire hillsides for the purpose of feeding your own lush life. You must know instead that inside you are entire universes, milky blue, magenta, and gold, expanding. But to be actually free, you must know and you must fight for the entire universes inside of everyone else. Being free is not a license, but a promise.
We're going to travel again, this time travel in time. We're going to go way back to the year 1629, when the Puritans created what's known as the Salem Covenant, a declaration of their right to self-govern in all matters of faith. The Salem congregation rejected external ecclesiastical authority. Instead, they thought of their gathered community as the, quote, beloved in the desert, awaiting the embrace of the abiding wisdom. This is drawn from a passage in Song of Songs from the Hebrew Bible. No intermediary or church hierarchy between the people and God. The Congregationalist Puritans felt free to shape their own religious practices and community life. This embrace of religious freedom set the stage for our tradition, Unitarian Universalism, and the congregational polity that we chose, where each of our member congregations exercise autonomy and are in mutual accountability and relationship with other UU congregations and our body as a whole. The word "and" is the linchpin and cannot be understated. We affirm the freedom of communities to self-govern. And I offer special gratitude and thanks for all of the leaders of SCOOF, this volunteer community, for the heart and energy and time and resources that you bring in helping us self-govern together. We affirm the freedom of communities to ordain ministers. Yes, only a congregation can ordain someone like me to wear the mantle, the yoke of ministry, to serve with our congregations. We affirm the freedom of communities to embrace the uniqueness and personality that come when any assembly of people gather in a particular and intentional community. And it still means something quite specific to call ourselves Unitarian Universalists. We don't have to think alike to love alike, as the expression goes, but that does not mean that we can think or do anything we want. Within our faith tradition and within civil society more broadly, we live within a web of interdependence. Freedom, writes our friend Ricardo Levins Morales, is bound to the land, air, and water, bound to relationships, beliefs, communities, social classes, and identities, all that make up our lives. Bound to history, to our human past, our stories that shape the cultural and political topography of our current world. The worldview of capitalism insists on individualism, competition, and fragmentation. The pervasive push of Christian nationalism is a reaction against the diverse and abundant richness of our global mosaic of humanity and our constantly changing living planet. The insistence that we all must think alike, act alike, believe alike. Rejection of pluralism and the denial of our interdependence are attempts to control, to have power over, to use the granting and denial of freedoms as a means to pit one group of people against others. It's the root of the creation of whiteness and how the United States has existed from the days of colonization to now, where poor white folks are more free than those poor brown and black and indigenous folks. But those same poor white folks are still less free than those rich white folks who, going back to our colonists, were themselves less free than the European royalty. Or in a context more relevant for today, less free than the oligarchs. The primary weapons against freedom, fear, and coercion. These have been used for millennia, but I'm going to stick to relatively more recent history. Around the time of the Revolutionary War, most religious people were Protestants here in the United States, what we know now as the United States. And the dominant preaching at that time was hellfire and brimstone. God was seen as a stern and judging God who had no qualms whatsoever of sending people to hell forever. But the earliest American Universalists, among a few others, said, no. God is love. If God is love, No one can be condemned. No one is beyond saving. And this idea, oh, it was scandalous. Without the threat of eternal hell, why should anyone be good? I know it's kind of, I don't know, I find it a little strange, but there you go. There's a story that I love to tell about one of our earliest Universalists named Hosea Ballou. He was a circuit riding preacher who traveled by horseback from church to church, sharing the good word. One day, as he was riding over the hills of New Hampshire, as the story goes, he was accompanied by a Baptist minister, and they argued theology as they traveled, as ministers are wont to do. At one point, the Baptist looked over and said, "Brother Ballou, if I were a Universalist and feared not the fires of hell, I could hit you over the head, steal your horse and saddle, and I'd still go to heaven." Ballou replied, "My brother, if you were a Universalist, the idea would never occur to you." Freedom, my friends, is not about being able to do whatever we want when we want. It's not about the freedom to listen to that little devil on your shoulder, or even as Michael Sakassis quips, listen to our heart or follow our dreams or whatever else we put on greeting cards and bumper stickers. Real freedom, he says, comes from learning to get out of our skull-sized kingdoms long enough to pay attention to the human being next to us so that we may treat them with decency and kindness and respect. This is decency, kindness, and respect that doesn't need the threat of eternal damnation or the threat of intimidation or coercion or eternal fear. Freedom, then, comes out of the choices that we make, the commitment, really, the covenant that we hold to be in right relationship with each other in this complex and dynamic, intertwined ecosystem of life. This is a life that doesn't carry certainties. There are no answers. There are only choices we make to follow a responsible search for truth and meaning. As UUs, we have chosen to be part of a free faith that isn't about reciting a creed. The only requirement for joining a UU congregation is choosing to enter into this community defined by covenant, a promise and a pledge that affirms the sacredness and worthiness of relationships, community, and interdependence. We are bound together. Humanity is bound together. All of life is bound together. Freedom for one cannot lead to liberation for all. Freedom is a choice to be with one another, feel with one another, stop believing in certainty, stop being seduced by big car roominess, floating above the melting asphalt, cruising along in the quiet behind tinted glass, with the doors locked and the window sealed, shutting out the realness of humanity just outside those metal frame. Here's the thing, though. Liberation isn't easy, but it is necessary. And it won't be fair writes Morales. Fairness, he says, is about accounting. Justice is about healing. Accounting involves deducting our claims of harm from the oppressor's balance sheet. Healing is about asking what we most deeply need and then offering it to one another. Liberation isn't easy, but it also isn't hard to understand what it means. All of us at any age can practice liberation on our way to making real liberation for all. So in language geared for second graders, here's a liberation program that we can all follow courtesy of the wisdom of Ricardo. Here's his first plank. You ready? Nobody gets seconds until everybody gets firsts. I think we can all understand that, right? Here's some more of his planks. Don't take stuff that isn't yours to take. Clean up after yourself. Liberation asks us to be considerate, to make considerations for one another, to accept limits on ourselves, and to draw and enforce boundaries. It asks of us to think of those who are downstream and down generation. When we don't, everything gets choked out and nothing survives. As nature teaches us, not even the aggressively invasive kudzu vine, or, here closer to home, the buckthorn shrub. Because life, in order to exist, exists in intersecting tensions. This requires us to decolonize our attitudes and actions, release control, grant freedom to one another, and allow the oppressed to be the architects of their own liberation. And we are here to support them in that work, not to lead the way. They are architects of their own liberation. Let's follow them. Because no human is illegal. No human is less than. Instead, humanity is technicolor. It's quirky, fumbling jumble of beingness with all of us simply trying to figure out how to live lives of integrity and joy, fulfillment and meaning, safety and security, comfort and belonging. That's what's real. This is what binds us and also what challenges us. And so it is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Let us lift up this rallying call from poet Assata Shakur, whose words are a staple of the Black Lives Matter movement and a reminder for all of us of why we do what we do. My message today has used a bunch of words, a few stories, a little bit of laughter, and some pretty deep thoughts about what liberation might mean. And I hope they have fed your mind and spirit. But here's the thing, freedom is embodied. Freedom is an embodiment of our connections. We know scientifically that trauma from oppression gets embedded into the very cells of our bodies, even generations later. And we know, too, that being with others, grounded in a spirit of love, brings us connection and unity to those very cells, provides this willingness to give and take, offers energy and movement, and opens up the possibility of healing and release. We need to break out of the visceral, we need to break out in visceral and physical ways from the ideology of individualism. We need to be reminded of why we do what we do. We need to bring ourselves closer in proximity to our coexistence of one to the other. So I keep coming back to purpose and meaning. You'll probably hear that thread through so many of the messages that I bring here. It's that why of our practices, that central question, because the why is our guiding star towards transformation. It's how we can live intentionally as if we're bound together by a covenant of love, because we really are, even those times when we are not. I am dependent on you. You are dependent on me. We need each other to survive, and we need each other so all can be free. The whole time I reflected on this sermon and its theme, I kept hearing chants and songs and the cries and prayers of freedom, for liberation, for justice. The sounds that ring out in the halls and rotundas and grounds of our government centers, that ring out in the streets, that ring out in a multitude of ways in our hearts and through our deeds. No one is getting left behind this time, these words and chants and songs say. We all get there together or never get there at all. So I hope that you'll join me for a bit of an embodied moment. I know Barbara will like this. It's a simple call and response song.
It's by Josh Blaine.
It is not.
The one you quoted is, or one of them.
So the song that I want to sing is kind of a newer one for me, but it came from the Cairo Center. I love the Cairo Center. They put together a song and chat book that popped into my inbox recently. And just the other day, I was at the Minnesota State Capitol with the Rise and Repair Coalition. We work for Indigenous rights and climate change, or climate justice, excuse me. And we were scrambling to think of like some call and response. We were trying to think of some songs as we were calling out for all kinds of things. I won't get into that. Anywho, and it made me realize I really need to like get some of these songs, some of these words into the marrow of my body, right? So that when we show up, we can draw upon these. When we're sitting at home and we're trying to feel what direction we need to head, that center, that kernel, that germ that needs to spring forth, we can call up these songs, these words, these call and response, these protest music, because they're so powerful. Whether you ever go to a protest march, rally, or vigil ever, these words can still occupy the marrow of your body. So we're gonna learn one together. I've been practicing it. I got it down pretty good now, I think. But this one that we're gonna try today was written in community and collaboration between the Peace Poets and Black Lives Matter in Oakland, California. And it's a song that helps us maintain focus. That was why it was written. And it reminds us that we are here to lift up our people. It's called The People Are My Reason. So I'll sing it through once, just so you can get an idea for it. And then we'll do I sing the verse, you copy me, that kind of call and response. We'll try that a couple times, and then if we feel like it, and I think we will, because Barbara does a good job of teaching this to y'all, we're gonna try singing it all by ourselves. Not all by ourselves, but all together, all together. I'm not gonna make you come up here and sing it all by yourself. All right? So, I also didn't want to provide the words because part of this practice, I mean, I have the words in front of me because I am not used to leading songs, so I needed a cheat. But just in case. But part of the practice is to call these up from memory. Part of the practice is for them to become so embedded. So that's why you're gonna learn it from me. Orally, auditorially. verbally, whatever the word is. I'm stalling. Here we go. The people are my reason. The people are my reason. The people are the reason I am never giving up. 'Cause you can't hide from freedom. You can't hide from freedom. You can't hide, no, you can't hide, 'cause freedom's gonna come. 'Cause freedom's gonna, I'm gonna do that one more time. The people are my reason. The people are my reason. The people are the reason. I messed up. That's okay. Here we go. We're gonna try one more time. We're gonna try one more time. Here we go. I need a clap. The people are my reason. The people are my reason. The people are the reason I am never giving up. 'Cause you can't hide from freedom. You can't hide from freedom. You can't hide, no, you can't hide, 'cause freedom's gonna come. Okay, here, now I'm gonna try teaching you for real. All right, you ready? The people are my reason. 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 The people are the reason I am never giving up. Am never giving up. 'Cause you can't hide from freedom. 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 You can't hide, no, you can't hide. You can't hide, no, you can't hide. 'Cause freedom's gonna come. 'Cause freedom's gonna come. The people are my reason. The people are my reason. The people are the reason I am never giving up. 'Cause you can't hide from freedom. You can't hide from freedom. You can't hide, no, you can't hide, 'cause freedom's gonna come. Yes! Yes, it will, my friends. May it be so. Amen.